Okay, again, hopefully the notes made sense. Here's the worksheet. All right, so let's go through it. I've already done them all, so we should be able to get through this video pretty quickly. So on number 1, A was 1, B is 7, C is 12. So we set it up. Opposite of 7 is negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 7 squared minus 4 times 1 times 12 all over 2 times 1. All that radical stuff inside the radical, including the radical, turns into 1. So we get negative 7 plus or minus 1 over 2. We break that up into two different answers. Negative 7 plus 1, and then divided by 2 is negative 3. If you're going to type that into your calculator, remember, negative 7 plus 1, hit equals, and then divide by 2 afterwards. Otherwise, order of operations will mess that up. So the answer is negative 3, and then negative 7 minus 1 is negative 8 over 2 is negative 4. Again, you could solve that by factoring, would be quicker, but that's up to you. Next year, you'll get into that more when we're back in school. Number 2, I would solve this one by factoring or add 4 and take the square root. But if you want to use the quadratic formula, A is 1, B is 0, C is negative 4. So the opposite of 0 is, I put negative 0. You could just have 0 there. Plus or minus the square root of 0 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 4. All right, all over 2 times 1. And you get inside the radical, or the radical turns into 4, so you get 0 plus or minus 4 over 2. 0 plus 4 is 4, divided by 2 is 2. 0 minus 4 is negative 4. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. So my answers are negative 2 and 2. Number 3, A is 1, B is negative 3, C is 0. Again, solving this by factoring would be much quicker. But opposite of negative 3 is 3, plus or minus the square root of negative 3 squared minus 4 times 1 times 0. When you're going to square the negative 3, make sure it is in parentheses. The radical turns into 3, so you get 3 plus 3 over 2, which gives you 3, and 3 minus 3 over 2, which gets you 0. So your answers for that one are 3 and 0. Number 4, again, this one could be factored. Okay, I didn't. So you get 1 plus or minus the square root of negative 1 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 12. All of that is under the radical times 2 times 1, or over 2 times 1. The radical turns into 7, so 1 plus or minus 7 over 2. 1 plus 7 over 2 is 4, and 1 minus 7 over 2 is negative 3. So those are your two answers. Number 5. A is 1, B is 8, C is 16. So x equals the opposite of 8, which is negative 8, plus or minus the square root of 8 squared minus 4 times 1 times 16, all over 2 times 1. When you take the square root of all of that, you get 0. So you get negative 8 plus or minus 0 over 2, which this is unique. You're going to get the same answer twice. This is a double 0. So negative 8 plus 0 over 2 is negative 4, and negative 8 minus 0 over 2 is also negative 4. So two answers twice. 6, A is 1, B is negative 8, C is 18. So the opposite of negative 8 is 8, plus or minus the square root of negative 8 in parentheses squared minus 4 times 1 times 18, all over 2 times 1. Now this one's a unique one. The radical becomes, what's underneath the radical becomes negative 8. So your calculator is going to throw an error at you if you type all that in, because it's trying to take the square root of negative 8, and it cannot. So as soon as you have a radical with a negative inside it, it's no real solutions. Okay, later on you'll find out that there are some imaginary solutions, but we're not there yet. Next year. Number 7 rather, A is negative 1, B is 8, and C is negative 15. So you get negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 8 squared minus 4 times negative 1 times negative 15, all over 2 times negative 1. Forgot to close those parentheses. Okay, the radical gets you 2. So negative 8 plus or minus 2 over 2, or over negative 2 rather. Negative 8 plus 2 is negative 6. Negative 6 divided by negative 2 is positive 3. And the other answer, negative 8 minus 2 is negative 10. Negative 10 divided by negative 2 is positive 5. And the last one on this, number 8, A is 2, B is 5, and C is negative 3. So x equals negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 5 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 3, all over 2 times 2. The radical turns into 7. So negative 5 plus or minus 7 over 4. So negative 5 plus 7 is 2, divided by 4 is a half. And the other one, negative 5 minus 7 is negative 12. Negative 12 divided by 4 is negative 3. Hopefully those made sense. That is worksheet number 1. All right, the next notes packet is going to get into what happens when the radical gives you a number that's not a perfect square. So we'll go through 6 examples on that and move forward. So these are the easy ones. Baby steps, all right. All the answers were mostly integers other than number 8 again. had a simple fraction to use. But stay tuned for the next video, and you'll see one where you have some decimal answers or some answers we could write in simplest radical form if we wanted to, but we're not going to this year. We'll save that for next year. Thanks, guys. Hope you learned something today.